I'm so pleased to introduce my guest today, musician, vocalist, and band leader, Emily Miller. A graduate of Berklee College of Music, she is the creative director for Boston Common Entertainment, and her debut album, Stronger Every Day, was released in August 2020. Emily, welcome to the Nikhil Hogan Show. So glad to have you.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
Let's start right at the beginning. What were your first musical experiences and memories growing up?
Oh, okay. So I come from a pretty musical family. My grandfather was a piano tuner and a trumpet player. His wife was a piano teacher. Still, I think she still is, actually. And my father is a fingerstyle guitarist who, he does some classical rep and he does some jazz rep and a lot of contemporary songs and stuff. Basically a hardworking freelance musician. My mom, although she's not musical, her twin brother was a pianist. And so she grew up around, all the piano lessons, and her stepsister, all her voice lessons and things. And so both my parents really recognized in me at a very young age that I was sort of musically adept. I'm not really a firm believer in like being born with like talent and
right.
just like amazing skill. I do think that those things are developed more than anything, but there are some things that you can tell in a young child that indicate, some aptitude, and that's what it was.
Right.
My dad said that when I was about 4 years old, we had an upright piano in the house, and the first moment he knew that I was sort of destined to be a musician was when I heard the ice cream truck. And I went over to the piano and apparently picked out The Entertainer, which, as you know, is kind of a hard tune in terms of intervallic leaps. So I don't know. I found that out a couple of years ago, and I'm like, oh my God, that's such a cute soundbite, Dad. Why have I never heard this story? But fast forward a little bit, I took piano lessons when I was really young. I took voice lessons as soon as a voice teacher would take me.
And wait, so hold on a second. So how young are we talking about for these formal lessons?
4 years old for piano, and so I don't know if you know, I'm sure you do. Most voice teachers won't take young children that young.
Oh, really? No, I don't know. So is that normal?
Yeah, it's very typical. I don't know if it has to do with attention span or if they just don't want to interfere with a child's, breathing mechanism too young, until they can really understand what it is they're doing. Yeah, I don't really know the official reasoning. I'm sure everybody's got a little bit of their own take on it, but the youngest that we could find a teacher to take me, I want to say, was 7 or 8 years old.
Okay.
So piano came first, and honestly, I make a joke. I've been quitting piano for 20 years. I've not been playing piano for 20 or whatever years. I've been quitting piano. I'm one of those kids that wishes she stuck with it, wishes she could
right.
self-accompany. The best I can do is plunk out some chords. I'll be totally honest with you. My my formal piano playing is pretty garbage.
Were they classical piano lessons?
It's been so long, it's hard to say. It was my step grandmother who actually gave me most of my piano lessons as a young child. We had a different teacher who was just a kid's piano teacher. So it was
right.
Here's your middle C, and you're going to put both thumbs on it, and you're going to move out from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, can you really call that classical? It's just the beginning of everything.
Right.
So in terms of repertoire, I got as far as the spinning song, which is, if you've ever taken piano lessons and stuff, your listeners might recognize that song. That's about as far as I got with my formal piano training. And from there, I just plunked. That's the term I use for it, plunking. It was always just a vehicle for my ear and to help me become a better vocalist, because that was always my priority as a kid. I was very sure of myself. Honestly, I wish I could get some of that certainty back. Because I just kind of knew from a very, very young age that singing was kind of it for me. And I had, Okay, so in fifth grade, my elementary school did this mock trial, and I got to be a fake lawyer, right?
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love the debate. I love the atmosphere. And so I told myself, okay, I'll be a lawyer if music doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And I mean, I also had a similar moment with like being a scientist and doing other things, but it was singing. So in terms of singing education, so there was the lessons when I was 7 or 8, 9 years old. 9 is when I got into, so I did the school choirs, of course, as soon as I could. It was just like 4th and 5th grade. But
no, that's American, right? So the 4th and 5th grade, what age is that?
Oh, so that would be about 8, 9, and 10-ish.
Okay.
1999 was when or 2000 was when I graduated 5th grade. So yeah, so I was about 9 and 10 years old. And when I was 9 in 1999, I went to a summer camp at the Sarasota Opera House. Sarasota is my hometown. And yeah, it was wonderful. They had us do they had us learning about Verdi and Wagner and, some of the great 18th century composers. And we were singing, not really children's repertoire. They threw, easy professional pieces at us. And from
so wait
there,
a second. So Emily, you were at the same time, you were also taking private vocal lessons?
Yes.
Could you just describe how often you took those lessons a week and what you worked on with your teacher?
Yeah, no, I can't because it's been so long. I'll try though. So when I was taking, my first 7, 8, and 9 years old voice lessons, those happened once a week. And I was singing things like the Rainbow Connection, and doing, your typical little voice exercises. Like we'd play games, that it's not solfege. People use numbers. That
Yep.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1,
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. That one. So we would do things like that. But when I got into the Opera House Youth Choir after the summer camp in 1999, I don't recall actually continuing with my private voice lessons. It kind of took place of that for a couple of years when I did the youth choir.
Right.
And there we were doing like pieces from Hansel and Gretel, and we were singing in Italian, German, French. I think we even did like a Russian piece. It was a really kind of intense program at the time. I don't know that it still is. It probably is, though, because I was very, very lucky to live in a city that really valued the arts. Sarasota, Florida is it's an older community. There's a lot of retirees there. Anytime I tell somebody about my hometown, they're like, oh, my parents are going to retire there. Or my grandparents live there or near there.
Yeah.
And so it's an older community, but because of that, they do have they've got those retirement accounts and they are willing to invest in going to see beautiful operas, and that trickles down to the opportunities available for kids.
So you were singing some pretty heavy stuff. And could I also just ask at the same time, what kind of music were you listening to growing up as well?
Oh gosh, so we're not even past elementary school here. Okay, let's, dang. I don't remember that young, but fast forwarding a little bit, once I left the Opera House, I went to a middle school called Booker Middle. And Booker Middle had a wonderful, he wasn't a substitute teacher, but he was a teacher that was like interim because he technically didn't have all of his teaching certifications.
Okay.
Apparently there's some rule that you can do 1 or 2 years of teaching without finishing your schooling, and then they make you finish your schooling. So his name was Sherwood Davis, and he was my first introduction to Black gospel music. And that was my world for a couple of years. And outside of doing the gospel choir with him, this is in 7th and 8th grade, I I was listening to actually radio hits. So at the time, it was like 2002, 2003, 2004. And that would be Usher. And I would go home. I would actually watch, I would always choose BET over MTV.
Okay.
So I would flip back and forth after school, and I would listen to a little bit of the hits on TRL and see what the top 10 countdown or whatever was. But I was much more attracted to the R&B, the gospel.
Can I ask, were you always singing all the time? Because I noticed that's something. Is that like a physical thing you always found yourself doing? Just always using your instrument? Yes,
that is probably the biggest thread through it all, is that it really didn't matter what it was. I was singing all the time. And part of it was scheduling, like my mom, she did her best to really keep us busy. And it wasn't like she was trying to keep us out of trouble or anything. It's just that we all had our interests. I was the music one, and my younger sister, Victoria, was the dancer, and she eventually did musical theater. She's actually doing choreography for a show this coming December. So we have a lot of arts in the family. My youngest sister's also a visual artist. And to answer the question, yes.
And can I ask, what is your vocal range? Are you a soprano, a mezzo, an alto?
I am a true alto, real low basement alto by nature. I have definitely worked up, and I have sung soprano in a variety of contexts, choirs and things. I can do it. It's not my purest sound. It's not where I sound best.
Okay.
And that's something that I've had to kind of allow my identity to accept, because when you're young and you want to sing everything and you think you can sing everything, it's a great workout and you can definitely build your range really wide. But there's always going to be a certain sweet spot. And through the recording experience last year, the album that I put out back in August, that was a very truth time. What do I sound best at? To answer, I'm definitely an alto. I have some tenor occasionally as well. But I've actually gone through a lot of different phases.
I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of naive singing questions, so just bear with me. So when somebody, can I ask you this question, Emily? When somebody says, "Oh, listen to this singer, she has a 20 octave range," you know what I mean? They say there's a multiple octave range. What do they mean by that? Does that mean they can sing all the ranges?
It just means they can sing high and they can sing low. So music has become a bit of a competition, and it started, back with the first American Idol, and now it's all about how high can she scream or belt or whatever. And that's not to say that those singers aren't amazing. I'm in awe of these people that are technicians. They can bring that mixed belt sound up so high. They can do all the Whitney Houston impressions and Mariah Carey impressions, and they've got their whistle tone down to a science. That is worthy of praise and impressive, but it's not the same as moving someone with intention, with a lyric, storytelling. There are other facets to consider. And I don't want to say that that's entirely been devalued. I don't want to say that people don't care about that anymore, because they absolutely do.
Good answer. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I interrupted you. We stopped at your, you had a Black Gospel phase, and let's continue the story.
Okay, so we're talking middle school. So that was middle school, and I was so privileged to get exposed to that. That was actually one of my mom's big sort of priorities when it came to my music education, was expose her to everything. I think it came from her dad. That was what he told her, and she took it and ran. And she just wanted me to be exposed to everything. So, in addition to BET after school and the gospel choir in school, she would also be playing Michael Jackson hits from her, heyday and disco hits and things that she used to love listening to growing up. So
did you do a lot of sight singing? Because you mentioned you were doing some operatic pieces. So is that a skill that you developed, or do you sing by ear and not read so much?
Sight singing, yes, I can. I do. I don't really anymore. These days, I don't really have much of a need for it because nobody puts sheet music in front of like contemporary singers very often. I'm sure they do somewhere in some pocket of the music industry, but nobody sends me a chart. So I definitely do most of my learning these days by ear. But at the time, it was kind of a combination. So the Opera House stuff was all sheet music. I had my book, like a whole folder. I had my little pencil circling dynamic markings and, extra accent on this piece, this little part, and all of the proper sort of classical music education was there in a diluted, digestible for a 9-year-old form. But then as middle school came around, it was all by rote. It was all sing it back to me, use your ears. And that was so good for me to become more well-rounded. Okay, story time. So when I first auditioned for the 7th grade choir with Sherwood Davis at Booker Middle, I went in and he asked me to pitch match. And he didn't say pitch match. He played a note on the piano and he said, "Can you sing this?" And I was so confused. It took me like a solid 5 seconds of staring at him sort of dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what do you mean? Just like sing that note? Like, I thought he maybe wanted me to harmonize it or something. But he just wanted me to pitch match, which I was sort of surprised to find out wasn't like a normal skill. And that's not like, bragging or anything. It was just something that I kind of like had in me. And that would be one of those skills that you can find in a young child that makes them adept. But so Sherwood Davis was only there my 7th grade year, and he unfortunately wasn't able to continue teaching because of the whole certification thing. So he left the school, and in my 8th grade year, he invited me to join his professional gospel group. And it was one of the best experiences. I was surrounded by these amazing vocalists. None of them were like classically trained. None of them had formal training really at all. They had just been
growing up singing in church.
Singing in church. And oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was amazing. And I was the only kid there. Was the only white kid. And they took me in with such, oh my God, just open arms. Everyone was like a pastor or a pastor's wife or, someone that was really deep in the church. And that was a wonderful experience. It was called the New Birth Gospel Ensemble. And I only did it for a year, but we did a small tour and did a few different churches. We did a big one in Lakeland, Florida. And yeah, so that was kind of my big middle school hurrah. And then high school came along, and there were my jazz days.
Right. So we go into because I read from your biography, jazz is probably your biggest love, right?
Yeah.
And so how did that happen? How did you get introduced to jazz?
Jazz. Okay, so Booker Middle was a feeder school into Booker High School. And Booker High School had a visual performing arts program just like the middle school, VPA. They called it a magnet program.
Okay.
Basically, they were they had these arts programs that would try and attract people from other school districts to come to the school. And I did. I didn't go to my districted middle or high school. I went specifically for these music programs. And it was definitely worth it. It was the right call, I think, because I got exposed to all that amazing gospel in middle school. And then in high school, it was jazz. So there is a faculty member at Berklee now. His name is Ned Rosenblatt. And at the time, he was my high school director. And Ned is kind of the vocal jazz guy. He is so good at basically training these 14, 15, 16-year-olds in really complex vocal harmony. He would have us doing, and the volume of material that he had us do was really remarkable. There were a lot of high schools that would like go to the Berklee High School Jazz Festival, or they would compete in various high school competitions, and they would only work on their repertoire of like 5 songs, and that they would do that for an entire semester to prep for the stuff. We would put together hour-long concerts and perform them multiple times as fundraisers so we could just go to the competition so that we could perform our 3 best tunes. The volume of material he had us do and the complexity of it.
Can you give some examples of the repertoire that you would do?
Yeah, we did a lot of New York Voices charts. We did a few Manhattan Transfer charts. We did a sprinkling of Take 6, not a ton of Take 6, but that sort of level. And then Ned actually would write really, really bonkers arrangements. He's an amazing vocal arranger. I still kind of have dreams of like hiring him someday to do a vocal jazz album if I could ever raise the funds to do it. And, getting some of my favorite singers together, because his charts were oftentimes harder than the New York Voices stuff. In complexity, like, yeah. So are you familiar with the New York Voices?
Yeah, I know that they're a very famous vocal jazz group.
Yeah. So New York Voices are, they were kind of, after the Manhattan Transfer, they were like, they really took vocal jazz to another level, even beyond. And a lot of their charts were written by Darman Meter, who's their sax player and one of the vocalists. Peter Eldridge is also in the group, and he did a lot of writing. I mean, all of them did a lot of writing, whether it be arranging or lyrics to old vocaleses, or taking an old solo and making it into a soli, which is then made into a vocalese. And they did some great stuff. And I mean, still are. Peter Eldridge now works at Berklee as well in the voice department alongside Ned. So, yeah. All's to say, I got a really, really amazing ear from all of it. It wasn't just that group, but that group was the biggest piece of it. We also had music theory courses within that VPA program. We also had a classical choir. The vocal jazz group was actually an extracurricular, so we would meet for 2-hour rehearsals twice a week. The theory classes would take up like a quarter of our day, and then we would have the classical choir for another quarter of our day. We were on what's called block scheduling.
Okay.
So instead of a typical high school where you have the same like 7 or 8 classes throughout the year, we would have 4 classes each semester. And with the VPA program, you could do some of your credits over the summer, like get some of the like PE out of the way, and like life management skills. You could do those things over the summer to avail you the time within your credit schedule to have half of your day be music program and half of your day be, chemistry and English or something along those lines.
The voice is not like the piano or the guitar, which you can practice for hours and hours and hours. So is it true that you can't do that with the voice? And if so, when you were talking about like spending whole days working on this material, did you sing for multiple hours, or did you have to preserve your voice? And how does that work? Because I'm asking this as a non-singer.
Oh, okay. So this is a can of worms, but I love it. It totally depends on a number of factors. First being the strength of the individual singer. Some of us are more resilient than others. Like that's just the fact of nature, we're all built a little bit differently. The other big factor is that it really depends on what you're singing. And there's also, I guess the third big factor would be how exactly you're practicing. So, for example, let's take me, which I would say I'm probably kind of middle of the road in terms of endurance and my build. Like I definitely have a lot of strength, but I'm not the strongest vocalist in terms of like singing for 8 hours straight. No, not going to happen.
Can you do that? Sing for 8 hours straight?
No, not many people can.
Okay.
No, not many people.
I don't
can,
know.
but
I'm just wondering, like, what's the maximum and what's average?
gosh, okay. So let's look back at my high school schedule. I had 80 minutes of choir every morning, 5 days a week. I had 2 hours of vocal jazz twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays, and then I also had a 1 hour voice lesson. So it was all broken up, and that's a great way to do it if you are a vocalist who wants to who wants to basically practice all the time but feels like they can't. Take breaks, do an hour and a half in the morning, 30 minutes of that being a warm up and 30 minutes of that being song study, and then 30 minutes of that like working on whatever written stuff you have to do, theory practice or whatever. Then, go about your day, go have lunch, and then you could do more in the evening. Like, it doesn't have to be, it cannot be like a violinist. It cannot be like a pianist. Those people can actually sit for 6, 7, 8 hours straight and do the things. I don't know how they do it, but they do. Vocalists are definitely not like that, but I think we're more resilient than we sometimes give ourselves credit for. And again, it really does depend on what it is you're singing. So if you're a musical theater person and you're working on your high mixed belt and you are just like, you're really approaching like the kind of limits of what you can do, you can't do that for very long. I would say like 10, 15 minutes in some cases if you're really stretching your limits. But then you can take 10, 15 minutes to, be silent and drink some water or some warm tea. And then you could do another 10 or 15 minutes. So it's not something that you can really put a hard number on.
Okay.
How much your max is, how much your minimum is. Artistry, getting to know your voice so that you can have an artistry it's a personal exploration. It's all going to come down to you and what you think you can take. And if you can feel when your muscles are causing tension, and you can hear it in the voice too. You can hear when like you sound tired. That might be the time to take a break.
So I'm very curious about, now you mentioned all that amazing work doing the New York Voices. And so how did that transition into high school, and eventually you went to Berklee College of Music?
Yeah. So, okay. So that was the extracurricular vocal jazz ensemble at high school. And that was under Ned's direction. And he was also the choir director, and he, oh my gosh, would throw some really hard classical choir stuff at us. We did Mozart's Requiem my first year. We did Haydn's Maria Theresa Mass. We did Brahms Requiem, and we did Bruckner Mass in F minor. Wow, I remember that. Okay, so that was all 4 years of high school, and we would perform those sometime in the spring, like March or so. And then we would use the last 2 months of that classical choir after the big performance was over, last 2 or 3 months, to prepare for a contemporary show called Pops and Jazz, where he would give the choir like pop music. Like we did a Gloria Estefan tribute with a show choir. We did, we did some rep that was just like pop stuff, which really came in handy like 8 years down the line when I was becoming a wedding singer for the first time, and I needed to know that stuff. A lot of it I learned back in high school for these pops and jazz shows. And he would intermix some of the vocal jazz material because we would need to fill out the program. So we had the vocal jazz, which was usually an 8 to 10 person group, and then we'd have the choir, which was like another 30. Anyway, I'm sort of getting away from the topic at hand, but
no, this is very fascinating, and because I love like, I mean, let's face it. I mean, let's be honest. The vocalist kind of saves the band, if we're being honest here. So in many ways, I think a lot of instrumentalists can learn about some perspectives from singers because, you know, as Chopin said, go to the Italian opera and listen to the singers. So this is all very fascinating. And so it's so interesting that you really knew what you wanted to do. How did that lead then to college?
So Ned was very good at being a high school director because his main goal, other than just giving us an amazing music education, was to get us to another amazing music education in college. And that dude was just a godsend for me. What he would do is for some students that they knew what they wanted to do, he would actually give them pieces years in advance that would act as their college audition pieces. And that was his way of essentially faking maturity. When I was 14 years old, he gave me a song called Something Cool, which I think it was Julie London did it, Tierney Sutton did it, a bunch of vocalists have done it. Sort of a lesser known jazz standard. And he had me sing that in December of my freshman year of high school. And I still have the video. And then he told me, put this song away. We're gonna pull it out for your college auditions. And so 4 years later, when I was 17 and doing prep for college auditions, I then had that song again. And it really, it had kind of sunk into me. He also had me watch a movie, Cocktail, with Tom Cruise, because he wanted me to watch the extras. Because the song Something Cool is about a woman sitting in a bar and she's like talking about her life and she's reminiscing, and you know, it's certainly not a 14-year-old kind of story. It's a story about a woman who's lived. And so he would have me watch those extras and try and like really get into the character of this storyteller. And that's what I did. And that's how I prepared it when I was 14. And then come college audition time, that's the song that we used, which it had really matured. In fact, I kind of want to record it now. I turned 30 this year, and returning to repertoire is a really, I know that happens a lot in the classical world. But I think that it's just as valuable in, other genres. So where was I? Oh, getting to college, right. So that was one way that he helped prep us. The music theory courses that we took, though, those were not with Ned. Those were with a woman named Sung Cho, and she was an amazing Korean woman she was a pianist. It was adorable. She had the tiniest hands. She couldn't reach an octave, but she was a badass pianist.
Yep.
She was a music theory teacher, and she took us all the way through the tonal harmony book, the Payne Koska book that you see basically in every tonal harmony class. And we got really far in it. We all took the AP music theory exam by the time we were in our junior year. And then there was an amazing band director. I wasn't really his student very much because he was doing like the marching band and the orchestra and the other stuff. But this band director, Bill Perrine, was our music history teacher. And the music history guy, oh man, he was really inspiring. I still have my notes from that class. He took us all the way from like monophonic Gregorian chant, right, all the way through
organum,
yeah, all the way to Gershwin. And it was really good. I can't remember hardly any of it, to be completely honest. But at least I'm not completely ignorant when, people who love that stuff are talking. I can at least listen and nod along and know relatively what they're talking about. So yeah, it was a really comprehensive music education program for which I will be forever grateful, especially to have it at such a young age, 14 through 17.
Yeah, that sounds it sounds quite intense, and it must have prepared you well for Berklee, because I noticed that you're in. Berklee has these videos where they upload. And if you look around that time when you were in Berklee, you're almost in every video, basically singing. Okay. You're like singing in every video on YouTube that Berklee puts out from that period. So let's actually I want to talk about that, and you probably because you had a degree in vocal performance. So talk about how you got to Berklee and how that affected your development.
Okay, so. The vocal jazz thing really prepped me to be a good background singer. I love, and please, if anyone's listening and you need background vocals, I love background vocals of any genre, really. I love singing in a group, and I love recording on my own. And the vocal jazz thing really prepped me for that in terms of my ear. So, where to start? So I got into Berklee. I got a full ride, actually. I really wanted to go to Miami. Yeah, it was wonderful.
That's great.
So I was auditioning, though, at the time of the great market crash in 2008, or 2007, 2008 was my final year in high school. And I really wanted to go to the University of Miami. They have a wonderful program at the Frost School of Music within University of Miami. And that's Miami, Florida, not Ohio. And I really didn't want to be super far from my family. I wanted to still have a car. I wanted to be able to kind of drive it in a weekend if I missed my people. And that's why Miami was a really good choice for me. Ned also thought it was a good choice because I have a very, I just have a kind of a very structured mind. And so formal music education really works well for me. And they had a program there that was, vocal jazz heavy, and it was more formal conservatory style music education. Right. Unfortunately, due to the market crash that year, they changed their scholarship policies. And I found out, through the grapevine, Ned knew some of the teachers there, and he was able to find out this information for us, that typically what happened is that the music school would give a top 10 list of their vocalists to the main school, and the main school would then offer those top 10 people scholarship money, with the top person getting a total full ride and the second person getting 90 or 80%, and then on down the list. The year that I auditioned, they only gave money to the top 3. And that was, at least the reasoning they gave was because of the market crash. So me and my friend Kayla were spots 4 and 5.
Oh.
So didn't get any scholarships at all. But I did get a really great full tuition offer from Berklee. And so, boom. I suddenly found myself in Boston. I did. I found myself in Boston. And to be completely honest, I was miserable my first year. I really had a very difficult transition. I had never been away from home. I had resentment for some of the singers I found around me that, I was cocky. I was like, how do you not even know where a middle C is?
Wait, let's take a little moment there, because that's something that's always fascinated me about singers. And you get a little bit of that with instrumentalists, just a little bit, but with singers, it's unbelievable. And I guess it's because singers, again, are the stars, so that they really carry the band. So there's all this pressure. But singers can be really harsh and tough on each other. I remember one time I was listening to what I thought was a great vocalist, and a singer friend of mine said, "She's terrible." And I'm like, what? So it's really tough. I can imagine the pressure in being a singer.
Well, pressure for sure. There are a lot of facets to that, though. One of them is that you don't actually have to spend a lot of time in the woodshed, for lack of a better term, to be an impressive vocalist. A lot of vocalists, they come up, they don't have any formal education, yet they can still front a band with people who have been studying and working on their instruments for 10, 15 years. And that's not to say that they don't deserve to be there. There are plenty of vocalists who have no training, can't read a note, they only use their ears, and they're fabulous. And they deserve to be there just as much as the other cats. But it does kind of give you a little bit of a insecurity. It gives you a little bit of a complex, because when the keyboardist is telling the guitar player, no, dude, it's G7, you played something else, and you feel like, oh no, I don't belong here. That insecurity can bleed out in the form of, nastiness and pettiness, or just ego, plus people praise vocalists so much, especially young vocalists. If you can belt a high note, I mean, go look at shows like America's Got Talent. You can't hear the freaking vocalist because the crowd is screaming so much. They give them so much praise, and most of the time it's deserved because they're a quality performer, but it does start to seep in and makes you think you're amazing. And then there's also the ones that do study, and then you get like someone like me coming up, and I had this freaking baller education for a public high school. Like, that stuff is unheard of in a public high school. And I was so blessed. My academic education, the rest of my studies were crap. But even taking the honors classes, like, I don't remember anything from chemistry or English or anything.
We could talk about public school, but that's a different podcast.
That's a whole different podcast. Yeah. I would love to. Oh man, but okay. So there's a lot of reasons that singers do that, and there's just a lot of competition. Just
so you felt that in the first year, and then so was the second year a lot better?
Yeah. So what I did my first year was I sat in my dorm room and I cried. And the only thing I left to do was go to my classes and then go to any rehearsals for any shows that I had gotten into, because my first semester I auditioned for like 13 different things. I knew that it was just going to be a numbers game. I needed to audition for everything. Luckily, it worked out. I got a background vocal spot my first semester for Singer Showcase, which, if you remember, is like, the big American Idol style show of Berklee. And I got into that one. So I was able to put on a happy face for those rehearsals. And I mean, those were joyful times. Like, I did enjoy doing that stuff. But as soon as I got home, I missed my family. I missed my long distance boyfriend at the time. And I knew that, some of the singers that were around me, like, had a lot of catching up to do. And I could see that they weren't even trying. I have some stories about that, and they might be funny, but I really don't want that chick to hear the story. Oh gosh, I'll give you the censored version and leave out names. There was this one particular girl who was in a jazz lab with me, and she just cut every single corner she could. And she brought in a song from a Disney movie when we were supposed to do songs from Broadway plays. Right. Like, it was rough. And I mean, I hope she found a place, in the music industry, but it was disheartening for me to see that somebody like that was at the same school as me. And now looking back, I recognize why. Like, Berklee was huge. Berklee's voice department was exploding. I mean, that department brings in a lot of money. And that's also part of the reason that you'll find, petty vocalists, is that the numbers are incredibly saturated.
Right. Emily, you never mentioned, and you went through the choral experience, but that whole time you didn't have private instruction one-on-one. You mentioned you did, actually, right? You had some private instruction.
Yes, I got back into private voice lessons in high school. Okay. So I took sort of a hiatus during middle school when I was doing the other stuff. And then I did have a once a week private voice lesson. I honestly don't remember a lot of takeaways from it. I had a pretty good teacher, and we would just work on things like breath support. She gave me some classical repertoire that I ended up throwing into my proficiencies at the end of the semester, because we did have proficiencies, juries, whatever you call those, performance evaluations.
I want to ask you about methods. And so, like, for instance, I've heard that there are things like speech level singing, bel canto from opera. I've seen Roger Love singing Success on Amazon. So what do you make of all these methods? Do you believe in methods, or is it just craft? I would love to get your opinion on this, because it seems a lot of people say I'm a certificate holder of this method and that method.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's so my take on all of the countless, sing your way to success kind of programs that are out there and philosophies that are out there. There's a ton of overlap between them. And in that overlap, you'll find the truth, which is, there are very basic exercises that will do different things, strengthen your breast port, or, help you with your vowel placement, things like that. But my overarching thoughts on it, as I said before, especially as a vocalist, but I would say probably extends to instrumentalists of all kinds, is that it's a personal journey of, exploring what works for you and what doesn't. And I have, so my dad loves speech level singing. That's Seth Riggs' Singing for the Stars program.
Right.
And he loves that. And the concept is that if you can talk all day, you can sing all day. And they've got a ton of exercises, really good exercises that help strengthen, help widen your range. And it really works for a lot of people. But I've never been a person who subscribes to one philosophy.
Okay.
Because I was exposed to a bunch of different philosophies, and therefore, I've been able to sort of meld what works for me. I am still working on it. I'm 30, and they say that the female voice doesn't truly mature till your mid-30s.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's the classical world. They know what they're talking about. I won't try to argue with them. But I've discovered that, yeah, it's true. My voice I feel like I've kind of fallen into it a little bit, where my instrument has come with more ease in the last, say, 4 or 5 years, since my mid-20s. And so in terms of what to do with this litany of philosophies and programs that are out there, it's a matter of trial and error. It's just a matter of go with one, and you do have to stick with it for a long enough time. You have to sort of sell out to it for a long enough time to reap the benefits, to see if it really does work for you. But from there, there's nothing wrong with saying, that doesn't really give me the sound I'm looking for. Let's try something else.
What about your private instruction in Berklee?
I had some really good takeaways from the private instruction at Berklee, but due to my own sort of overwhelmedness and depression at the time, I didn't get a lot out of it. I didn't get as much out of it as I probably should have. And I would not hold that to the teachers. I wouldn't hold them responsible necessarily. I do think some of the teachers could have pushed me harder. But a lot of the times my private lessons would turn into therapy sessions. I have, like all of us, or maybe not like all of us, but like me, I've had a huge existentialist kind of crisis, basically since the day I was born. And so I would use my lesson time more so to talk about different career options and a lot of tears. I will say, and I would say it, to Roger Brown if I needed to, who's the president of Berklee, I would say I think the proficiency requirements at Berklee are far too easy for vocalists. I think that they could be held to a higher standard.
And what do you mean by that? So what reforms would you imagine here? What would make it more strict?
I would say the amount of material that you have to have prepared. One option would be that you have to come in with, say, a book of 15 songs, and then the adjudicators pick 3 at random. So you have to have all of them ready to go because you don't know what they're going to pick. I think that would be a way that we wouldn't need to increase the amount of time given to the proficiencies, but you would increase the amount of time that the person needs to prepare for the proficiency.
What should you look out for in a good teacher? And if you are trying to teach vocals, what are the things that are really important? I mean, there's technique, but there's also phrasing and listening. So what do you look for in a good teacher? And as you teach as well, what do you really try to do to help your student?
Ooh, that's a great question. So chemistry is definitely key. You do need to feel like your teacher has your best interests at heart, and you should go with your gut on that. But I would say it's more about knowing yourself than knowing your teacher. If you're the type of vocalist who's really naturally gifted and you like to slack off, then maybe you need to find a teacher who's going to give you hell for coming to a lesson unprepared. And maybe you're not going to like that teacher very much. It's not just about liking the teacher. It's about respecting the teacher. And if you have a little bit of, fear going into that lesson, like, oof, did I prepare enough? That can be really helpful if you're not particularly self-motivated. If you are super self-motivated, then you need to find a teacher who's going to, work at your pace and give you exercises that will get you to whatever goal that you have in mind. It's hard to say because, if you're talking about a younger person, like somebody in middle or high school, they're not going to know themselves really well. So you just need a really well-rounded teacher. If you're preparing for college auditions, you might actually just want to find a performance coach as opposed to a voice teacher. Because if you've got your material ready, you might just need somebody to say, okay, well, maybe if you delivered this line this way, and they just do some polishing before you go into that college audition season. If you're an adult and you're just like, I sing Christmas carols every year along with the radio, and I think it would be fun to, sing something for my husband on Valentine's Day, then you're not going to need somebody who's going to give you theory homework. You will need somebody who's going to get you in touch with your own voice. You're going to need somebody who can make it fun and who can make it really efficient, because you're probably a working adult who doesn't have a lot of time to devote. It's hard to say.
You bring up adults, and that leads to a question that I have, which is, can anyone learn to sing and develop a nice singing voice? And I mean, I'm talking about age, like if you're starting it when you're an adult.
Oh, yeah. I'm a firm believer that basically anyone, there are definitely rare exceptions, people who are truly tone deaf. And I have encountered a few people who are truly tone deaf. And even those people have managed to find, some pitch with some patience and, consistency. That's how you get good at anything, right? Patience and consistency. It sounds so obvious, and yet I have such a struggle maintaining it, just like anyone else. I do truly believe that any age, any person can definitely start. Now, there are going to be limits to how far they're going to be able to take it, and that's probably just due to time constraints, because unless you're thinking about making this a career, you're not going to have the time to devote to become an American Idol contestant or something. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't learn to sing a beautiful lullaby to your newborn baby. That doesn't mean that you couldn't learn to sing well enough to join your church choir or, things along those lines.
Okay, now, very important. Let's tell me a little bit about your new album, Stronger Every Day. What was your vision and concept for this album?
Okay, so I turned 30 this year, and I have been upset with myself pretty much my entire 20s for not putting something out. That I could go into all the reasons, the litany of reasons why I haven't. Most of it is fear. Most of it is just fear and a little bit of complacency. I became a wedding singer, and I work with Boston Common Entertainment, and that gives me a lot of wonderful performance opportunities. And just a whole bunch of reasons I haven't taken the time or the money to put out an album. So last September, my boyfriend, partner of 5 years, Joshua, he's a musician too, who I absolutely recommend you have on the show because his story is fascinating. Joshua Faubert, he is a classically trained pianist. He is an amazing music producer. And he said, I want to tell you about your Christmas present. And I was like, it's September. And he's like, yeah, but I think I need to bring you in on this. It's like, okay, weirdo. So he said that he wanted to produce my first album and that he had already spoken to a bass player who we love and a studio that we love up in New Hampshire about potential dates. And I was like, okay, let's see. Now, Josh had it in his mind that we were just going to rent a studio for a day, hire some of our favorite cats, and
it rapidly escalated.
Oh, you know it. Anytime I'm involved, anything, I'm such a perfectionist. And this process has forced me to just be okay with, what we have. I learned so much through the process, but so let's go back. September is when he announced it to me. He definitely thought we were just going to go in and play some jazz tunes and, we're just going to pick my favorite songs and I would just practice them and then go in cold, right?
Right.
No. I sort of badgered him into arranging. And we sat in his little studio and we arranged and we came up with 30 songs that we could potentially do, and we kept narrowing it down and throwing out really wacky arrangement ideas, and it eventually sort of took form. And we had one day in the studio to record with everybody involved. We had Baron Brown on bass, and Baron Brown has played with Vital Information, Steve Smith. He's played with freaking Kenny G. He's an amazing cat. I think Chick Corea, he's toured with and stuff. Anyway, amazing electric bass player. And then we had Eduardo Mercury from Brazil, who is a longtime favorite of mine. He's a jazz guitarist, and I used to do a jazz brunch gig with him for a couple of years, every Sunday morning. And he lives in New York and came up for it. We had Pablo Eluchans from Chile, and he was our drummer. He also lives in New York, and that dude, he literally was an architect. So it's funny that I was saying musically he was an architect because it's totally true. We had Joe Cunningham, who's a sax player. Joe actually pulled double duty as the photographer that day on the songs that he wasn't playing. He told me afterward he never wants to do that again, putting on musician back and forth. And Joe was great. And he brought his flute, so we actually flute on one of the tunes. And we had Yuri Nadoma on piano, who's from the Czech Republic. And Yuri played he played 5 out of 6 that were released. And then we had 2 more that Joshua played. Because, like I said, Josh is a pianist as well, and he played Rhodes on some things. 2 tracks from that day are unreleased, but we managed to get 8 full tracks done in one day with technical difficulties. I couldn't believe it. These guys were such pros. We recorded at Cedar House Sound and Mastering up in New Hampshire with the owner and engineer Jerry Putnam.
You guys must have had the focus of samurai that day, because you had to do so much in one day.
We did. We had a corrupt Pro Tools session, which put us a couple hours behind schedule, and they rallied. We recorded up until 8, 9 o'clock. And then Josh runs to the kitchen and makes us all a pizza party because Josh is an amazing pizza chef. So I had a village come out for this thing, and they did such amazing work for me, and I really will be forever grateful.
The album is fantastic, and how do you feel that was your debut album?
I feel like I wish it was twice as long. I wish I had the money to do a whole nother day, to be honest. But with the time we had, with the budget we had, because it was all out of, my pocket. My Josh contributed, my mother contributed, my uncle contributed. Actually, my nephew and sister and her partner did too. My nephew gave me $50. It was like the sweetest thing. He was only 12 at the time, and I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, he's a good kid. So yeah, it was a little family pot of money, and the 6 we came out with, I'm very proud of. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me to even say that because I'm such a perfectionist, but I haven't done hardly any promotion, and the people that have listened to it have really enjoyed it.
No, it's a fantastic album. I definitely want people to go listen to it. Stronger every day. So is the album, how do people listen to the album?
It's everywhere that you listen to music. It's on Spotify, Apple Music. I posted it, the full version on YouTube. Basically, Stronger Every Day and my name, Emily Miller. You can find it everywhere.
Wonderful. So now, let's end off with some fun. Are you ready for the hot seat? These are fast, quick questions, all in the name of fun. Are you ready?
No, but okay.
I'm going to say a name. I want you to give me a short reaction, all right, to the artist. Billie Holiday.
Oh, great. Classic.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Oh, even better.
Mel Torme.
Yes. Smooth. Timeless.
Louis Armstrong.
Ooh. Also timeless. Very different way.
Sarah Vaughan.
Oh, Heart Be Still. Love her.
Nat King Cole.
One of my earlier influences. Listened to a lot of Nat when I was young.
Peggy Lee.
Never really listened to her. There are some classic people and amazing people that have slipped through the cracks of my listening. So, yeah.
Manhattan Transfer.
I just love them. Nightingale sang in Berklee Square. Like, that's the one that every high school vocal jazz ensemble sings. I never did, but they're amazing.
Frank Sinatra.
Crooner. Kind of wish that the crooning thing translated better to females, because that would be my career right there. I love that.
New York Voices.
Oh, my favorite. They tie for first with Take 6.
All right. Top 3 jazz standards.
Ooh. Okay. That's a hard one. Okay. So off the top of my head, in the wee small hours of the morning, I fall in love too easily. And that is so hard. Okay. You can do this. I really love Autumn Nocturne. It's on my album. I feel like that's a tune that I'm probably going to nail when I'm 40, because it's just one that keeps evolving with time.
Okay, top 3 male singers, top 3 female singers.
Oh, jeez, dude. Oh, gosh. Top 3 male singers, top 3 female singers. Okay, so let me start with female, because it's probably a little easier. I have a huge love for Whitney Houston. God, do I love that woman's voice. She's just, she was a legend. Oh no!
Whatever really comes to mind. Remember, this is not like the Smithsonian.
Oh, I know. I like good answers. I don't want to just say.
Oh no, this is going against the structured Emily Miller.
It is. Okay, Karen Carpenter.
Okay.
Yes, Karen Carpenter, number 2. Whitney Houston, Karen Carpenter. This is tough. Interesting that they're not jazz people, is it?
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of not jazz. Okay. I'm just going to round it out with, I'll just go with Ella. Yeah, because no one can, if I'm going to listen to anyone's scat, and to be completely transparent, I don't like scat. I know I'm one of those jazz people that just doesn't care for it. I don't. And we could talk for another hour on that. But if I'm going to listen to anybody's scat, it's that woman.
What do you make of when people take like bebop tunes and add words to them?
Now that I love. That's called vocalese. And I actually really love that. I think it's so fun. I think it's such a challenge, but it takes the best of a solo and takes the best of what a vocalist contributes to a band, which is a storytelling.
Is that with new lyrics, or is that just like vocalese is just non-words, right?
No, vocalese is when you put lyrics to an existing solo.
Okay, got it.
At least that's my understanding of it. Don't fact check me. Somebody fact check me.
Let's actually jump to top 3 albums.
Take Six's debut album. I know that one front and back. I really love Tom Mish's album. I think it's called Geography. Yeah, that one's dope.
Stronger Every Day.
Oh, sure. And Stronger Every Day by Emily Miller.
Has to be. It has to be. All right. What were the 3 hardest songs that you've ever sung?
I would say Autumn Nocturne is definitely up there. It's a challenge, man. It is not easy. I would like to, like I said, re-record it again in 10 years because it's a beast. Other than that, one of my college audition tunes, Ergin, it was based on I think it was the New York Voices arrangement because they had a vocalese written to it. So they took a Sonny Rollins solo and wrote a bunch of words to it. And I did the whole thing as my college audition.
the whole solo.
If you go back, Ergin. It's Nigeria spelled backwards. Definitely Ergin. That was a beast. And then there's challenging songs. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Remember when Katy Perry's Firework was really big?
Yep.
Yeah, I had to sing that at a lot of weddings. It's a throat shredder. Can't do it. So hard. That one.
So is she a good singer?
Katy Perry? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's good at what she does, and she's got like a high pop princess high belt, and that is, it's great for what it is in those contexts.
Okay,
it's a great part.
So time machine time. If you could collaborate with anyone in history, who would it be?
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. These are not rapid fire. This is so hard. Okay. Gershwin. I don't know what we would do, but I would love him to write from my voice. Oh man, that would be dope. Okay. And then is it 3 again? Am I supposed to come up with 3?
Well, it's just 1, but no, if you have 3, that would be great.
Okay. Well, he's still alive, but I love working with Bobby McFerrin. And that dude,
you have worked with him, right? Have you?
I have. In the singing tribe, of which I'm a member. We did a performance with him in 2011. We just did Symphony Hall back before the pandemic hit in March. And it was just incredible every time, I share a stage with that dude. But I would love to be more closely involved and do something there. Him and Chick Corea and the album Play, which I think came out in 90 or 91. That is one of the most amazing collaborations between a pianist and vocalist. And if I was anywhere near that caliber, then I would just, faint. But being around those two would probably bring me up at least tenfold,
Final question. What advice can you give 20-year-old Emily Miller? Now, looking back on your career and all the stuff you've learned a lot, you're very experienced. What would you say to a 20-year-old Emily Miller?
Oof. Oh my gosh. Start your YouTube channel. Basically just start chronicling everything and putting it online. I have a very difficult time. Partially, I love my privacy, and partially, I just never feel like I'm camera ready in terms of my looks. There's a whole bunch of non-musical reasons that I don't put things out online. And if I could get over that, even today, that would be good advice. But if I had gotten over it 10 years ago and started a YouTube channel, just hey, I'm a Berklee student and I'm going to rehearsal and here's what it's like, I think that I'm an interesting enough person that I probably could have somewhat of a following these days. And a following is what you can monetize. A following,
really great
attention.
Career advice. No, that's really, I think everyone should take advantage of what you just said. It's really true. Well, Emily, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show today. Please tell my audience, where can they find you and what do you have planned for the rest of the year?
Okay, well, thank you, first of all, because this has been super fun. I don't often get the chance to just ramble about myself for an hour. If people are listening and you found me interesting, then yes, definitely come and find me. I am on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. Basically, searching Emily Miller and the word voice, as in singing, VOICE, will get you to me on all the platforms. And of course, my album, Stronger Every Day, is available everywhere you listen to music. Instagram is probably my favorite platform out of the three that I'm actively on. And so Instagram is always the best one to reach out if you wanted to collaborate or, as I mentioned before, request some background vocals or whatever. Aside from that, though, the rest of this year, right. I have 2 songs that were recorded at the Cedar House session last November that have not been released, so I do have my fingers crossed that I can rally and get those out. I am just trying to put out smaller bits and pieces of content, particularly on Instagram. I'm not very good at it. Months will go by before I post, but I'm trying to just get over that and just show the world my singing a little bit more frequently. So that's also on the docket for this year. And I'm actually on a bit of a fitness journey right now. So I've been focused a lot on trying to, mind over matter, get rid of this quarantine 15. And so that's a huge priority, but not musically related.
Well, awesome. The fantastic Emily Miller. Go listen to her album. And can they buy it, Stronger Every Day, on these platforms?
Yeah, it can be bought.
Go buy that album, Stronger Every Day. Emily, thank you so much for being on the show. Take care now. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.